CWE video podcast is back. It is week unlucky 13. And unlucky because we've got the hot prospect Travis Cole back on the podcast after a little bit of a hiatus. He was on vacation in the Rainbow District of San Francisco, but he is now home for the holidays.
Or he was home and now he's back on vacation here.
And we have a special guest on the program, 16-year professional wrestling veteran, Cory Diamond. Welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
So there's a lot on the docket we're going to talk about today. I thought there was nothing because I don't pay attention, but Travis clued me in, as he seems to do on a day-to-day basis, what's going on in the world. But before we get to the mainstream wrestling, we usually make fun of a lot of people on the podcast and tell jokes and bury people for our own amusement. But there's actually a story of heroics, I want to call it, in indie wrestling this past week. We did our show at Rookie Sports Bar. We had a bunch of talent booked from across Minnesota, North Dakota, Saskatchewan, and unfortunately, Doug the Wrestling Alien was denied at Canadian Customs. They were not letting him in. I don't know if he's an illegal alien or what the case may be.
That's heartbreaking because I saw the footage of your match with him from a little bit ago and it looked solid. I was looking forward to having him up here.
Yeah, Doug's awesome, but I guess as a young alien, he got himself into some trouble early on in life. So Canadian.
Probed one or two innocent citizens.
He was driving the spaceship while intoxicated, I think. Might have been the situation. So he wasn't able to get into the country, but he was traveling up with Rock Solid Ross, who's a rookie to the business. I met him earlier this year.
Right.
And Rock Solid Ross was determined to make his first match in Canada. So he got out of the car at the border and he hitchhiked from Canadian Customs all the way to the Central Hotel in Transcona. Just sat at the side of the road for 2 hours, had no luck. Finally somebody pulled him aside and gave him a ride to Rookie. So I really want to give him a pat on the back because that kind of dedication to make a show is few and far between for people in the business today.
Not just rock solid in name, but rock solid in character, eh?
Exactly. And I'd like to point out if you didn't get it, just me saying his name, it is the most solid wrestling name ever. That's a name you put on a WrestleMania marquee. Rock Solid Ross versus The Undertaker. Like I'd pay to see that. But I want to point out this for people watching because Rock Solid Ross, he's a year into the business. He's actually a state wrestling champion. Very well accomplished, championship arm wrestler, very, very good athlete. But he broke into the business this year, and he's kind of got a little bit of heat down in Minnesota, where a lot of guys he's rubbed the wrong way. Right. Just because he's come from a strong sports background, so he carries himself a certain way. And he's kind of like me. He's kind of like just kind of outgoing, a little obnoxious at times.
Right. And
being a rookie in the business, sometimes that.
He is from Minnesota, after all.
Exactly. So that's against
I love
him.
Minnesota.
So a lot of guys, a lot of veterans, they don't take him too seriously. I know a lot of places, kind of look down on him because he didn't carry himself with the best etiquette early on, and I don't think it's because he meant to be disrespectful by any means, although that's exactly how it came across, because that's how I felt when I first met him too.
Right.
But getting to know him, he's just a big kid like me. He likes to have fun, and so he's kind of buried himself a few places. So I'm hoping that this story will kind of redeem him a little bit because. To get out at the border of another country, jump in a stranger's car to make a small show where he's coming up here for experience, essentially.
Possibly gave a bleeze for the ride.
Yeah, who knows? Like, he could have ended up butchered up in someone's basement. Like, he could have ended up in Travis's freezer. Who knows what could have happened? But he got here, and I think that in a day where we have a very lazy generation of people that don't like to get off their fucking ass and go 10 minutes down the street to make the show.
Yeah.
He went above and beyond. So if you're doing cool little graphics, Chris, give a gold star to Rock Solid Ross and his performance here.
Yeah, props to him.
That's fair.
And right back into burying people, and this is somebody we're all familiar with, so we can all throw some insight on. I want to debut the segment this week, the Indie Idiot of the Week.
Nice.
And I'm giving that first award to the Big Kahuna, Ernie Todd, our old pal, former owner of the Canadian Wrestling Federation.
You and I spent some time
there. The tricep, is that what that was? Is that the tricep there?
Yeah.
Broda is starting to run some shows. He's done a couple now. I think you worked for one of them, I believe.
Not yet. January will be my first one.
Your first one. So
I've been on the poster for all of them.
Yeah. Before we even get to that, I should say, why do you keep no-showing Broda shows? You've been on every single poster, but you're never at the show.
It's all a swerve. You see, them bro's gonna expect me not to show up, and when it finally becomes the norm, me not showing up, that's when I'm gonna show up.
The day you're not on the poster.
The day that I'm not on the poster. Then I'm gonna show up.
But what about your legion of fans across the province that show up expecting to see you and you're not there? You're letting them down.
Piss on.
So I've known Ernie since I was like a young teenager. I worked for him when I was 15, 16 years old. I trained out of his school with Gene Swan. For some reason, Ernie has like this lingering heat with me, and I don't know what it is. I have a suspicion, which we'll talk about.
Sure.
But I did Broda's last show, and I wrestled Travis, and for Travis, it was a great match for me. It was another match.
But it was a fun little show. It was a fun little show in general.
It was a fun little show. I had a lot of fun. It was a good locker room. The crowd was hot.
Nobody was being a dickhead. It was just...
No, it was just a good little small Algie show. It was a benefit show for a girl, and we had a good time. So he has a show again on January 23rd.
Right.
And I have a booking offer for a show in Minnesota, but if I could stay home and not have to cram my back into a car for 15 hours round trip, great. So I touched base with Broda because we kind of talked about it but didn't confirm anything.
Yeah.
So I asked him, I said, do you need me for the show before I commit to this one?
Mm-hmm.
And he said, no, actually I can't use you on this one because Ernie is booked. And Ernie said if you were at the show, he's not showing up, and that if he's on the show, no other CWE talents cannot be on the show.
Well, that limits the talent pool drastically, because that's Corey Kincaid, that's Bobby Collins, that's...
They use Bobby's ring.
Yeah, they use Bobby's ring. What's he gonna do,
So Ernie has some kind of hate for me.
Yeah.
And I think it stems from, he tells anybody that will listen, this goes back 8-9 years ago,
Alright.
that I am the cause for his divorce.
Oh.
I guess somebody called his wife
Yeah.
and said he was cheating on her on the road,
Mm-hmm.
and she divorced him.
Was that true though? Was he actually cheating on her on the road?
I don't think anybody would sleep with
No, I
Ernie,
don't
so
think
my
so.
guess is
But
no.
maybe he was trying to?
Probably,
Yeah,
that I believe.
Well, there was that girl that was, Madison was her name, and he said was his cousin of some kind, remember? They came in.
Were you around for that, Diamond? Can you confirm or deny that rumor? Because that was a story for a long time.
Yeah,
he was trying to sleep with his cousin.
I don't know that he flat out propositioned her, but he was definitely being a step above creepy with her.
And it was his cousin.
And it was his second cousin, or
Second cousin.
Her parents and his parents, like her mom and his dad were cousins or something like that. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like their parents were cousins.
Somewhere on the tree, anyways.
Somewhere on the tree.
So this is something that you saw with your own eyes. This isn't.
I saw him. I saw him being a creep. Yeah. Like I don't know if he had said like, "Hey, come to my hotel room and we'll fees" or anything like that. I don't know if he flat out propositioned her, or if he was just like, "Ah, here's an opportunity."
He's the man who makes and breaks him.
To cop a feel on a 21-year-old ass or what? But it was happening. It was somewhere in between those two things.
Okay. So this is a story that he told people. So I imagine this is what the heat must still be. Because I haven't talked to him in 8 years. So I have no need to. I don't work with him. He's not in the business anymore.
He's barely in the country.
Yeah. So first and foremost, like I like to rib, as you
Sure,
can probably tell if you've been on this podcast before. I like to have a good time, but I never called Ernie's wife. I don't think I've ever had a conversation with Ernie's wife. And secondly, if Ernie has been in the business for 15 years at this point, I'm sure, especially like during the time Ernie was around and it was shit disturbing and causing heat,
Oh yeah.
she had to be familiar with people fucking around and ribbing and trying to like sabotage shows and
pranks and causing shit.
If just some random person picked up the phone and called her and said, "Oh, hey, by the way, your husband's cheating on me," I don't think that's enough substance to be like, "We're getting a divorce.
Yeah.
This is over and done."
All right, I'll pack my bags before he gets home.
Right? Like
Thanks
it's
for the
like,
tip, kid.
It sounds so unrealistic and
Yeah,
stupid
it really
to me.
does. Yeah.
So maybe somebody did call, and maybe she's like, "All right, here's my out. I don't have to fucking live with this guy anymore. I'm gonna pack my bags and get the fuck out." So I guess he's putting the blame on me and making me the scapegoat for it. I'm just going to assume it's because he's a piece of shit human being and probably a horrible husband, and that's why they got divorced.
Isn't he remarried now?
Yeah, he married a woman down in.
To the cousin.
His cousin, yeah.
But so how does that? How shitty is that to his new wife that he's still holding a grudge over the person that cost him his past marriage? You know what I mean? Like she'd feel like a piece of shit knowing like, oh yeah, he still like is upset about breaking up with his last wife and ending up with me. You know, like that's kind of a piece of shit thing to do too.
Like even when I had a falling out with Ernie, like I don't carry heat with people. Like I've had people in my life that have done a lot worse.
That's pretty near a decade ago too.
Yeah.
You know, like
I've even offered him spots, I think, in the last 2 Rumbles, like, sent him a very nice, courteous, professional email, said, "Hey, if you want to be involved," but in his mind, he probably thinks, like, Travis is going to beat him up or something.
beat him off.
Beat him off, that too. Welcome back to the podcast, buddy. So, in your experience with Ernie, did you ever have to deal with shenanigans like this? And
you know what? He was always cool with me, and I probably, I don't know, spent 2 or 3 years on his roster, and I saw it kind of, you know, from afar his dealings with whoever else kind of thing, but I don't know what it was. He just kind of, our relationship was pretty cut and dry. Like, hey, here's what it is. Here's what I want you to do. Blah blah blah. And I didn't really I was in on ribs, but I was never the one starting them in those days, kind of thing. I was never kind of like, okay, let's fuck with Ernie here. But if everyone else kind of did it, I'd be like, okay, I'll keep my mouth shut while you guys do it, or I'll watch guard or whatever kind of thing. But I wasn't really as much of a shit disturber then. So I think it was just kind of like, okay, here's this kid that comes and works these shows, and that's that. The relationship didn't go anywhere beyond that. He never stiffed me on pay, and he never swerved me or anything like that. There was never any, like, me and him personally never had any sour dealings whatsoever, but I saw him have less than amicable dealings with other people, though.
Was it Ernie or Wayne's ring truck that Dick Blood left the arrow to the tires of?
Wayne's.
Was it Wayne's? Okay.
Here's a fun road story going. We were at Great Bear Lake, first tour.
You mean private function?
Private function, yeah.
And we go. Someone decided to take his infamous cowboy boots and
Oh fuck.
shower in one, piss in the other,
Yeah.
throw them outside in the winter.
In the snow.
Ernie's boots?
Ernie's boots.
Ernie's boots, yeah.
So that's
How was
just
it?
popped
He blamed
in my
Dick
head.
Blood for that.
So the pissing in the boots?
Yeah, he blamed Dick Blood for that. I don't think it was him though. But Dick Blood didn't care. He's like, I don't care. Fucking blame me. He's got whatever. What are you gonna do?
So I need a wrestler's opinion, something that was circling around the boys today. They're all having a good laugh. PCW heavyweight champion, Jackie the Jet Li,
Right.
I guess tweeted a picture of him in a Charlotte Flair shirt,
Okay.
him at the gym,
Yeah.
about how she's an inspiration and how he looks up to her. And she retweeted it with, like, keep up the good work, boy, or something along those lines. And the boys were just kind of having a chuckle that here's a guy who's the champion for a company,
Right.
and he's, tweeting out like a fan
Yeah.
in, a WWE shirt, and it's now broadcast. So in a day and age now where I remember when I used to break it, when I broke in, and it was probably the same for you guys too, it was like, don't be a mark,
Yeah.
don't take pictures with the names,
Yeah.
don't get autographs, all that kind of stuff.
That was huge.
That was a big
Still
thing.
is, yeah.
And it is to a degree. I've never been like too tight on that kind of stuff. Like me
Right.
personally, I've never been a pictures guy.
Nah,
We're
me
like, oh, I need to get a picture with this guy.
Yeah.
I've never been. I gotta get an autograph from like me personally. As I've gotten older, I understand like a lot of guys wrestle for fun. So it's like,
Yeah.
oh, Jake Roberts is on the show. You looked up to him as, so yeah, you're gonna take a picture of Jake just for the memory of it.
Sure.
Because a lot of guys aren't treating it like a business, and it's recreation. So I don't really look down upon that too much.
No.
Like if I'm out with like some of the guys that are in that are my friends, it's like, oh cool, we're hanging out with RVD this weekend, and
Let's do a group shot.
yeah, and it's
Yeah.
and stuff like that can be used to your advantage in terms of increasing your social media reach. Because like, oh cool, I'm out with this dude.
Absolutely,
We're at the gym with Van Damme. People see it, increases your following. So there's a strategy to it if it's done right.
Yep.
Is something like he did, is that fall in the line of being acceptable in this day and age, or is there a point where it's like, okay, you're a wrestler, so you need to separate yourself and not be treating yourself or presenting yourself as a fan?
I personally would not do that, and I by no means make my living off of professional wrestling, but I do take it seriously, and yeah, I wouldn't do that. Like to me, that's marking out.
I think what you said, Danny, is what sums it up the best, is that a lot of guys do this for fun and don't treat it like a business, and I think it's okay if you're just doing it for fun, I guess. Now it's a little bit more acceptable. Like Kev just said, he's not making his living from this, but he treats it seriously, but that's kind of where the line is of treat.
Yeah.
And then maybe that's where the business is going wrong, is...
But you also want to advertise yourself. Now, how you do it can go either way, hurt you or help
Yeah.
you.
Like on his side of the things, like when the picture was sent to me, she had like 5,000 like Instagram likes on it and stuff like that. So that's 5,000
Sure, yeah.
people that would
Laying
never
eyes on him.
never see Jackie Jet Li ever, and probably never will again.
Right.
So is this like a good opportunity for him to be like, oh cool, I got this many eyes on me. It probably increased his following to some degree,
Right.
or is it in a negative light where it's like, well, you're not getting it for the right reasons?
How many of those 5,000 people know who the hell he is, though? He wasn't
Before
tagged.
that.
He wasn't tagged in it. It's just a dude in a shirt at a gym in a locker room. It could be anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And when it was sent to me, I don't know Jackie, so I may have met him. I honestly have no idea. I've never worked with him, But when it was sent to me, it took me like a minute or two to realize who it was, and that was with someone helping me out. Like, so even me being like living in the same city as him and working for some of the same companies, I had no idea who it was. So why would those 5,000 fans know or care? It didn't make a dent in him other than to now have it questioned on whether or not something like that is acceptable.
Right. Like I've got a Virgil t-shirt that I posted online because I love Virgil. So like, am I in the wrong for posting a picture of me in my Virgil shirt?
No, that's different.
Like, I'm marking out for Virgil.
Yeah.
I love him. Like, I'm probably his biggest fan.
But you've met and dealt with him and had conversations with him. Snuck away while he was still waiting at the convention center, so he didn't have to come to Hooters for dinner with us. Ted and Tom were like, "Hey, Virgil's still at the elevator. Let's go! Quick, get in the car. Don't tell him where we're going."
But also a lot of the guys coming up in the business didn't have the guys that we had to help guide us, for lack of better words.
Yeah.
So, like, okay, yeah, Jackie's trying to get his name out there, but there's no one to say, okay, well, you know what, do it this way. Maybe try this. You know.
I'm not familiar with PCW's locker room, but do they have that leadership figure that would say like, "Hey, man, maybe don't do that," or do they have?
Maybe at night when he was there.
Currently.
At the end of the day, does it really matter though? Like, does it make a difference? Does it have a negative effect, positive effect, or is it more just like a morals and ethics thing in the business?
I don't think it has I don't think it's going to move the needle one way or another attendance-wise. I don't think it's going to have a positive or negative impact attendance-wise. It's just going to be something of the.
It'd be awesome to grab that crowd and bring them here.
The only people that are going to have any concern are the boys, right? The only people that are going to say anything about it that are going to locally anyway. You know, there might be some Joe Schmo that Charlotte has on her social media that's never been or never will be to Winnipeg, kind of thing.
Right.
But other than that, the boys are the ones that'll see that and say, "Oh, he did this," or "Oh, he didn't do that." I don't know him personally. You know, I only met him when we had him at last year's Rumble and on the. Sonjay Duck tour there kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I don't know. So I don't know if he really actively seeks other bookings outside of PCW. Like that might have negative connotations on that if he does. If he's not, if PCW is his sole, home base and that's the only place he's wrestling out of, then whatever, he's already there. What's a hurting kind of thing. But I don't think it's going to affect attendance-wise for that company. Him being the champion of that company, I don't think that's going to affect their attendance either positively or negatively. It'll just be the people that are going anyway, and it'll be something different for them to talk about, and that's that.
Well, let's talk about a few things that are moving the needle. Vince McMahon is back on TV. It looks like he's going to be a more regular occurrence. He's now in the angle with Roman Reigns, and essentially they're duplicating the Steve Austin Vince McMahon angle from 20 years ago, where he's fighting against the Authority, and they don't want him as champion. And
how fucking old is Vince? Does anyone know? Like
70.
Jesus,
70 exactly right now.
He'll be on TV if he's like 120. Like I think as long as he can walk down the ramp.
He doesn't look.
Actually, he could probably be wheeled down the ramp. I think he'd still be on TV.
I think there was one point they were doing that as part of the gimmick.
Yeah, which is awesome. Like I think I said last week, I would watch 3 hours of Vince. He's like my favorite. I think he's
over the top, intriguing character.
I think he's probably like the best heel of all time. Like his promos, his facials, his selling to get baby faces over.
And just his ability to make you wonder, is some of this shoot? Is some of this him just letting off steam? Because he really does think this guy's the shits or think this guy's a prick and he's kind of, airing it in this fashion or what?
How many guys can you think of have like iconic facial expressions like that one time where he like peered over the apron in that match? You know, everybody knows that, like, you can think of 100 different Austin moments like that, or McMahon moments just where it was just a facial or as opposed to an actual like thing he did. It was just his everything he does is just on.
He's like so over the top and you just can't help but laugh. Like I know that's not always the reaction he's looking for.
No.
But he's just so over the top that I just think I'll be like watching an old tape and he'll just do a promo and I just find myself like laughing like hysterically. Even when he's on commentary, like he's just so over the top and you can't help but enjoy that.
I love watching the kind of early to mid 90s when he was on commentary and he was kayfabing the fact that he was the owner and he'd like have questions. Oh, I wonder if we're gonna see Razor Ramon at the Survivor Series this year. I don't know, did you fucking book him? Like, if I was Jerry Lawler, I'd say, I don't know, you gonna fucking book him or not? You tell me, motherfucker.
Alright.
I love his commentary so much.
Oh yeah, he's like the best too for like the 1, 2, he's gotta know. Like, just like a back elbow, but he would sell it like it was the end of the world. It was awesome.
Yeah.
So is that?
I think
is it a
that's
good move. Good move
yeah.
having Vince back.
And obviously they're gonna build that towards something with him in some kind of angle at WrestleMania. And it's just,
Yeah. Well, it looks like they're like putting him with Roman
with
Reigns.
Roman Reigns
And it's good that he's been off camera for a while. That it's a fresh.
it's not done
Yeah.
to death. Yeah.
Yeah. When was the last time he was like on TV regular? It's been quite a
Over,
while.
I think it was over a year.
Yeah.
they said, like-
Regularly?
Yeah.
Regularly, yeah.
Even longer, I would think.
My only complaint or critique if I'd have one is I don't like that they've always had like an authority figure like that's always like trying to screw the baby faces.
Yeah.
Like that's been a thing now since the Austin era and it's
Since,
never really gone away.
1997, Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
It used to be just like, oh, President Jack Tunney made this match.
yeah.
And I
then
think the closest thing I guess
on
would have been
comes
was
Jack-
Kenny Long was the GM of
Yeah,
SmackDown.
on comes
He
Jack
just kinda
Tunney
showed up
after
and
the
made a
monsoon,
match.
just dry as a cracker. I make this match. You know,
It's bizarre when you think about it because they don't try to like build individual stars anymore. They try to build the brand. So
Yeah.
when WWE comes to town, you pay to see them. You're like when before it used to be you're paying to see Hulk Hogan, you're paying to see
The Rock. Or,
Yeah, now it's like you're paying to see WWE. So if you're paying to see the brand, why is the brand a fucking dickhead trying to hold down all the people the fans like? Like it seems like it's kind of wishy-washy. Like
no, I don't think anybody kind of picks it apart like that.
Yeah.
I think people are just kind of like, oh, that's part of the story.
right.
The way it
It's
goes.
like why does this owner not like the guys we like?
Yeah.
Like, why am I supporting this company then?
Yeah, he's making money. What's his fucking issue?
So overall, thumbs up to Vince McMahon being back.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes,
Yeah,
definitely.
I think that's good for business.
And somebody else that just returned. I guess did you find out what the rating was this week? Was
They,
it
I
up,
don't think,
down?
probably because it's holidays. They haven't
It won't
posted.
be.
Yeah, I
John's-
looked specifically, but no.
John Cena returned to television this week as well to work for Bro Del Rio, so he's back in the mix.
Yeah.
And he had some much needed time off. So it'd be interesting to see how he's used because when he was off, they hit that record low they hadn't got since like 2004 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So he's always kind of like the safety net. It's like, oh, we tried to give new guys a chance, it didn't work. So let's put the
Back to square one.
But you know what? Even when he was there earlier this summer, they were still giving you guys a chance. He was working the mid card. He was in the United States Championship.
And having great matches.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
probably some of the best
yeah.
matches of his
Yeah.
career. But
Yeah.
he wasn't taking away from anybody. In fact,
No.
look at all the guys that got spots. Kevin Owens got a spot on the main roster because of that performance. Sami Zayn would have had a spot on the roster if it wasn't for his shoulder injury.
Right.
So all those fantastic matches that he had with these guys gave young guys opportunities, if anything. So
where does he fit in the mix now going into 2016?
They'll find him.
Roman
somewhere, I
Reigns is
think.
on top. That's always been John Cena's spot. Does he
Yeah.
stay in the undercard getting guys over, or do they build to Cena and Reigns?
No, they don't. I don't think that's their end goal at this point.
No.
I think they're gonna keep Cena separate.
I think it depends on how long Rollins is out too.
Yeah, and they'll see kind of where they're sitting right around going into the Rumble, which is a month away, and play it by ear and set them up with something for Mania.
I don't really know what they have for him for Mania unless it's the Undertaker. Really, what else do they have for him?
Cena?
Yeah, what
Right.
do they have for him this year? Del Rio's been done. Wyatt's been done. What do they have for Cena this year at the Rumble?
Yeah,
Or-
Rusev's
or-
been done. I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
Rusev's been done just last year.
Give Cesaro
Yeah,
a push.
Rusev.
Yeah, he's been
Could
he's
be,
ready for it.
yeah.
He's been hurt too.
He's hurt. He's hurt now. He just got hurt.
Yeah.
He might not be back in time for Mania. And another guy got hurt this week.
Who's up now?
Sin Cara
Oh, right.
yeah,
you mentioned
shoulder. Yeah.
dislocated his shoulder, so that's another guy down up. So maybe Kalisto's an option to work the mid card.
that. Yeah.
You know?
They're high on him.
Yeah.
They kind of highlight him more so than Sin Cara, it seems.
Especially with the big spot and him winning the Slammy last week.
Yeah.
So
We kind of talked about that last week about how like the style that they're allowing guys to finally do is tough to do on a daily basis. That was always why there was the WWE style. So it was safer for guys to work that
300
way.
days a year, yeah.
Yeah, now you got like 8 guys that are out, not necessarily all related to that style, but definitely the wear and tear on the body. You got Sin Cara,
Yeah,
Cesaro out, Rollins out.
Yeah, the correlation's there, right?
I'd
Yeah.
be curious to see too, like with them being 3 hours now, the average length of a match now compared to what it was say 5 years ago. I would think the guys are putting a lot more time in on TV in their matches, which is going to lead to more wear and tear.
Yeah,
as
well,
well.
before it's like, great, I need to get the TV so I can wrestle for 5 minutes and collect a paycheck
Yeah.
and not kill myself.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
took
they
cra-
don't-
Yeah,
they
you gotta
took-
wrestle for
No,
20
no,
minutes.
yeah,
You
they
got
took
time.
crazy bumps in
Yeah.
1999, but like they
Yeah.
would send Goldust and whoever out there for 3 minutes.
Yeah,
and
that
then
time you
now
got
we need
time is if you were on
That'll be a
Superstars or
commercial.
Heat. Yeah, if you were on Superstars or Heat or something, you'd get a match with a commercial break.
Yeah, did matches ever go to commercial in the Attitude Era?
That's what Masters said. He goes, the best matches I was having was when I was on Superstars because I was getting 18 minutes because
Yeah.
I'd have a commercial break. In
I
the middle
remember
of my
reading
fucking
something
match.
Russo said about that. Like during the Attitude Era, he never wanted the matches to go through commercial break because people had short attention spans. So
Right.
he'd try to make it segment to segment, come back, capture you again, and keep you for that segment, and then not risk having people drop off during the commercial break.
It all depends on how.
I can see that too, like, because like what we do, we're supposed to be taking people on an emotional ride, and if I'm taking you on this ride, and then now suddenly you're thinking about Tostitos chips or the new Star Wars movies you're gonna watch, it's a separate. Yeah,
It depends
kind of
on how
separation.
captivating the angle is to begin with. If it's a throwaway match that didn't have any, if it's two guys that are just randomly paired together in a match, then yeah, you don't want a commercial in that because
Yeah.
there's no reason to break that up over 2 segments. But if it's something you're like, okay, this is a storyline I've been following, okay, and it's got a commercial in the middle of it, you're gonna come back and get right back into it. It depends on what it is and where it's leading.
And the big WrestleMania announcement today is The Rock will be at WrestleMania. He will not be
He can't
wrestling,
do a match,
but he
though,
will
because
be
it's a
there.
movie, yeah.
So how is The Rock used to generate interest going into the WrestleMania to sell pay-per-views other than he's there?
That is what they're gonna. That is what the angle will be. Just that he's there, and then what he does there will be the. You gotta tune in to see what he's gonna do, but he'll be there.
Right.
kind of
Maybe
thing.
something with Roman Reigns, like their
Yeah.
family. It's probably going to be Reigns and somebody for the title.
Or
Do they
Triple
try
H
to get
again,
Rock?
because last year they kind of had the little heat, right? That
Oh,
little,
I guess that would make
they tried to
sense.
get
Ronda
Rousey.
Rousey again?
Yeah, so
Yeah. That makes sense.
Rousey's fucking in hiding now. She's not in.
That makes sense if they're doing Roman Reigns and Triple H because they have planted that seed with
Yeah.
Rock and stuff like that.
Last
So
year,
for him to be
exactly.
there to back his family against the authority.
Against, yeah, the guy
Apparently
was
the-
kind of being a dick to him last year at Mania. And
Yeah.
Apparently, the promo Vince cut last night was a lot of family based. He was talking about the Samoans and how he used to treat them badly back in the days. So I could see that tying in actually.
Oh, Vince used to treat them badly?
Yeah, how he basically cut a promo talking about how he used to treat I think the one line he used was something about Roman Reigns was one generation away from having a bone in his nose. Or something like that.
Back to the head shrinkers.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
So he was basically, they went the family route, so I guess I could see that being a thing with like Roman Reigns and
Well,
Triple
that
H
did come up in
and-
conversation. of
speaking of which, I'll send it to you here. But anyone that's watching, I recommend you YouTube it. The most solid match that I've watched in months was just the other night. Hacksaw Jim Duggan and Kamala versus the Head Shrinkers. It was fucking. You'll love it. I'm gonna send you the link. I'm gonna send you the link as soon as
Sounds like it'd be pretty awesome.
They even incorporated an Ico Pro reference into the match.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Oh, good.
Wow, into the
No
match.
flop. It was as early 90s as it gets.
Before we take our first commercial break here, it is the end of the year, so let's just go down the panel. Let's make some predictions and maybe some moments to review and some predictions to close off 2015 going into 2016. Just in the business in general, what do you see happening as we gear up for another year?
I think we'll continue to see an increase in people coming back that were disenchanted viewers that kind of left off in the early 2000s. I think the business slowly, but it will continue to grow and continue to go into a positive light. I think a lot of that's attributed to how easily accessible the footage and the shows and stuff are. And the network is doing what it's supposed to do. Is it generating the revenue it's supposed to? Maybe not yet, but it is opening up a lot more different venues of watching programming, be it past, present, whatever. Divas, you name it, kind of thing. But I think we'll continue to see an increase in business. I think TNA will be done by the end of the year too. I'm going to go on statement and predict that. But right now, I think they're on their last leg. They've been on their last leg for fucking ever, and they're going to run out of steam this year. There's zero interest in that product. Like, have we ever talked about it on the 13 podcasts? I don't think so, other than using their guys or whatever, right? The whole thing.
Yeah.
But there's zero interest in that product. They don't do house shows. They're regressing. They're not growing. They're doing the exact opposite. So I think by December 2016 they're done.
Yeah, I agree with Kev that wrestling itself is gonna do a comeback and start grabbing more attention. If not, hopefully a younger generation to bring it up.
Travis?
I think we're going to see a lot more like interesting changes in things. This year, you really saw the rise of NXT and stuff like that. I mean, I'm really curious to see if that becomes a full touring brand. What happens next? Do they get another developmental brand? There's been all kinds of different rumors about that, so I'm curious to see how things change. I think we're going to see a lot of like Kevin was talking about growth in the business. I think there's going to be a lot of changes where it's going to be
Like growth hormone in the business?
there's going to be a lot of people who are following the products, but maybe don't follow all of the products. So like the main roster is going to target one group of people. You have NXT targeting another group of people. You're going to have. I just think there's going to be growth, but I don't think there's going to be growth in the sense of you're not going
A
to see
boom.
like 10 million new viewers
No,
on
it's not
Raw.
gonna be
Some people are going to be
boom.
feeling nostalgic and watching the network. Some
Yeah.
people, like wrestling as a whole, I think is growing and becoming more mainstream again. But I don't necessarily think
It's
that
not
applies to
booming.
one
Yeah.
aspect of the
No.
product or the other. I think there's just going to be a lot of interesting changes over the next year or so.
I would agree. If I had to make some predictions for next year, I'm going to be way more jacked. So there might not be enough room for 4 people on the panel
Yeah,
at this time.
you might need to join us via satellite on
Via
a little tablet or iPad set up in the corner.
You might be too wide for the tablet.
I'm going to predict Robbie Royce will come out of retirement once or twice.
Oh boy.
If I had
That's
to
fair.
make a prediction. Talking about the business growing, I think NXT is going to continue to grow and become a big brand. And if I'm just going to throw a wild card suggestion out there, I think it's going to grow to become a big brand that's really generating a lot of attention and a lot of steam. So it's going to get mudded because they're going to try to rub it off on the WWE brand as well. Maybe not this year, and hopefully not. But I think as long as those two keep separate, you'll continue to see growth there. And I think the business as a whole, if you look at it, all the other companies are really doing well. Like Ring of Honor is doing well, New Japan Pro Wrestling is doing well. Everybody, a lot of top independents are drawing really well. So I think in 2016 we'll probably see somebody else pop up that will start to make a little bit of a dent, because there are a lot of guys out there that are sitting at home and not doing anything. So, Global Force, they're trying to do something, so we'll see if they do. Whether it's Global Force or somebody else, I think somebody else will come on the radar before the year is done. And just overall, I think just an increase in the business. I think more people are open to watching wrestling and not necessarily following it week to week, but hey, this is something I can go see once a month, or this is something I'll invest my time in. Because there's a lot of those indie promotions now that are kind of like more entertainment style. Like we were talking about Joey Ryan. I watched another match with him today. I got a freelance wrestling in Illinois, and it was very like gimmicky and entertainment. And there's a lot of companies like that are popping up all over the place. So I think there's just many niche, different styles of wrestling that are popping up, and I think it's creating that alternative for the wrestling fan that maybe not everybody's going to watch one, but there'll be enough to support many smaller ones, so that'll keep everybody busy.
Who do you think, real quick, locally is going to go from, I'm not saying outside of Winnipeg, but who's going to be like, going from being going from being a smaller fish in the Winnipeg pond to a bigger fish in the Winnipeg pond? Who do you think's going to get over more locally in 2016 than they ever have?
I think Tommy Lee Curtis is going to have a big year this year. He's been really putting in a lot of work and a lot of effort. He's making a lot of improvements, and he's got a character that's really starting to catch on.
He's getting fucking jacked too.
Yeah.
Holy fuck, look at that guy.
Oh, he's going to love you now.
Oh, man.
You're his favorite person.
If I had to take one, I think he would be my guess as like the guy that's going to kind of break from the pack as long as he stays focused and keeps where he's at.
That's fair.
He's going to love you, Kev.
Well, he is, man. Look at the guy.
I'm not saying you're wrong, I'm just saying he's going to love you now.
Travis is hot that we didn't say him. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we're going to come back and we're going to indulge into the career of Cory Diamond.
There's been an awakening. Have you felt it?
Boom, boom, Cocabana.
I'll work an angled bro here.
Well, if that bugs you.
Now it's time for the history lesson portion of the podcast. We're going to get inside the brain of Cory Diamond and kind of get your perspective on your 16 years in Winnipeg wrestling. We've had a lot of guests on from various promotions who have spent a lot of time in different promotions over the years, and you're somebody who's spent a lot of time in various promotions. So you've pretty much worked with every promoter, you've worked with every wrestler in town. So it's time to get some insight on some of the happenings and where you were at these times. Let's go back from the very beginning. You started with the original River City Wrestling crew, correct?
That's correct.
1999.
I was. First match in Chalmers in October was my first match.
And who got the honor of having that first one with you?
Depends who asks, but Plumber Lou Dooley.
Yes!
Carver Gleason.
Man, you were doomed from the start.
Yeah.
You set you up for failure right out the gate.
Nothing against the guy, but yeah, definitely.
Was he the plumber in that match?
Yeah.
Oh, he was the Jersey plumber.
Didn't he have like a gimmick at first, like with a mask before he was Plumber Lou Dooley, or am I thinking of somebody else?
No, I think it's somebody else. You're thinking of that was Mr. Pink had that JJ.
Oh, right.
Where it looked like an aborted fetus, kind of like this white Mike Myers-ish mask. That's what you're thinking of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's plenty of aborted fetuses on that crew.
Oh yeah.
Who was your original trainer in that class?
Started off with Vance Nevada
Okay.
before he went and did big things for himself, and then after River City, we went to CWF with the infamous Ernie Todd.
Okay. Before we jump to that kind of stuff, who were some of the guys in your training class?
Mine had Moses Luke, Ronnie Attitude,
Ryan
Price, Rob Stardom, Dick Blood,
Wow.
Kevin Cannon here. And
You were in that class as well? Yeah.
Oh, I came down to training. Like, I had already done my camp with Dom, but I came to training every Saturday
Cool.
still. And
How was training under Vance?
it was very educational. I was a sponge. Just wanted to make my mark and do what I wanted to do and not get hurt. Because seeing what I watched on TV and then going doing the backyard scene. And
Yeah.
so I was like, okay, well, there's got to be a different way to do this. So.
Take us back. Tell us about some of those times at Chalmers. It was like a rookie crew. There's a couple veterans on it, but it was essentially guys from that training class put on the shows. So, in traditional business sense, as a rookie, you finish your school, and then they'll push you in there with some veterans to teach you along the way and kind of guide you in the right direction. But with this 1999 crew, it was a crew of rookies. So,
all kids.
bring us back to that time and kind of give us a little bit of insight on the locker room environment and just working with guys at your level and how you were able to grow in that environment.
It was basically, the door was wide open for the 99 class, and with Vance Nevada, Johnny Malibu, Mentalo, even Adam Knight, guys were willing to extend their hand and help you where you needed, and it was not didn't feel as cutthroat, and you gotta watch your back then, as some of the other promotions that I've come across in the 60s.
What was your first impression of meeting Wayne Stanton? He's a colorful character.
He is a colorful character, and being as naive as I was, is like pretty much just mouth open, eyes open.
Both open for the promoter. What kind of? What were you doing for that spot?
Got to get the way in there somehow.
We talked about this on the podcast before. Like, there was the original River City Wrestling crew, and then there was like Don's guys that came and kind of like integrated into the crew. What was your take on this group of guys coming in, because they had different training? They had a guy on TV that was training them. Was there any resentment of those guys coming in, or was it welcome with open arms, welcome to the team?
Well, personally, I felt more knowledge. For argument's sake, J.C. Dirks, working with Don Callis and stuff like that. It's like, okay, well, here's someone that I can learn a different avenue, so to speak, at that time, right? And so, like I said, it was basically just learn as much as I can, work with what I can. So,
Okay.
I'm not the flashiest kind of person, but definitely one of the hardest workers. So.
That crew really started to mount some momentum. Like, I was going to those shows. That was my first introduction to local wrestling, and Chalmers was filling up every week to see River City Wrestling, and as quick as it started, it stopped because Ernie bought out River City Wrestling. What was your initial reaction to Ernie coming in and buying it out?
Well, it was definitely a shock because I started getting comfortable where I was with the crew that I had, and now they were basically headed to a new promotion, new face, new rules, and it's like, okay, let's take this and use it here.
So Bobby decided he was going to start up Top Rope Championship Wrestling because a lot of guys thought Ernie was a dickhead and didn't want to go and work with him. It's a recurring theme as we talk about it. So he started Top Rope Championship Wrestling. So guys kind of, Ernie thought he had cornered the market. He was going to run Winnipeg and kind of monopolize it, but Bobby gave guys another option. Did both promoters come to you with an offer to go, and why did you decide to go to Top Rope Championship Wrestling over the CWF?
I didn't feel that I was getting, I couldn't get any further in with CWF. So I took my bag and went over to next door there and see what I could do. Now,
Did Ernie make you an offer to go there? Or was it just kind of like an open
nope,
crew
it
offer?
was just open crew offer.
Okay.
And talking with Bobby J and seeing all his guys, it was like, okay, here's a new setting. Let's see what we can do here.
So right away that started like a promotional war. Like both companies were running Chalmers. There's 1,000 venues in Winnipeg, but they both chose to run the same one. So
Yeah.
things got pretty heated at the time. Like it was TRCW versus CWF. What was some of your memories of just like the environment at the time, and the politics that were going on? Guys jumping ship, trying to, outdo the other.
Well, I for one tried to stay out of the politics because I'm not very well with that. However, just a lot of tension between, it's like, well, come over here, it's better over here, you don't have to look over your shoulder and stuff like that. And it's like, well, no, stay here, and promise things that didn't happen, and so it was kind of like, okay, well, being pulled one way to the other.
There was like a lot of cliques that kind of like started forming around that time. Did you have like a group of locker room guy, like group in the locker room you kind of hung out with, or were you kind of a lone wolf?
At that time, I was definitely a lone wolf. I didn't have a clique until further on. Then a couple friends started coming in and started gravitating towards them because it was comfortable. Sometimes.
You were one of the most popular guys, like in that era, like in '99, 2000, 2001. You were one of the, the top baby faces in the area. Like a lot of, you were touted as one of the guys that had a lot of potential to do a lot of good things. You were a hard worker. You were getting over, and it all kind of changed like that when you hurt yourself. You blew your shoulder out.
Yeah.
What exactly happened, and how did that kind of change your career?
Well, after blew out my shoulder, it was basically start from scratch again. It was like, okay, well.
What did it happen on?
It was a tag team move, and I was in the ring with Moses Luke and Adam Knight, and my tag partner was Mr. Pink. And I took a 3D, and I didn't land right, so.
I think I was managing Mo and Knight that match.
Yeah.
I was.
And
What was the extent of the injury?
extent of the injury was a lifted shoulder on the collarbone.
Yeah, you have like a scar to this day.
Yeah.
There it is. How long did that take you out for?
I was out. It was supposed to be 9 months. I came back in 7.
Okay.
And when I came back, it was like a whole new atmosphere. It was like, okay, well, this is all new faces. Everyone that I knew was gone and did their own thing. So it was like basically starting from scratch.
So as like a guy that was like just a couple years in the business, you have these hopes and dreams and aspirations of doing something in the business, and then something severe happens that
Definitely not.
really, like how did that change your mind, like once you got back into the business and just how you approach the business moving forward?
Well, I was not taking as much chances. Gene Swan actually said to us, it's like all these guys doing these crazy flips and stuff like that is going to take a bigger toll and hurt you faster. So it's like, okay, well, let's change this up. I started being, instead of top rope, I was more ground, and learning how to be a ground wrestler now. So that was definitely, took me out of my comfort zone, however, made it work.
So you didn't stick around TRCW long. Was that because there was a new face? You eventually went to the CWF. How did that all come to be?
I went back to the CWF because I didn't know anybody there, and I felt it's like, okay, well, this is different, and I didn't deal well with change. So I went, tried to find comfort back in, and I had a few friends back there. It's like, okay, well, I can make this work, and stayed back with CWF for three years.
What was the atmosphere like going there? Like
Dealing
with Bobby and dealing with Ernie are two completely different animals. What was What was that change like?
Well, I just pretty much tried to stay with myself. Just, okay, well, instead of thinking I knew everything, eyes open, ears open.
Right.
Not mouth open.
It's interesting you say that you had to like change your style because of the injury and you had to be more ground based because you went over to the CWF that was doing a lot of hardcore like extreme wrestling at the time. So how did you kind of fit into that mix?
You read me a lot.
Yeah. Working Reggie Gallagher, and the hardcore was definitely again another notch on the belt, eye opener. It was like, okay, well, you know what, this is different. This could work. However, I'm not taking as many aerial risks, but definitely harder on the body.
At that time, they had Paul Diamond come in for a period of time. Did you get to work with Paul at all?
I did briefly.
He was his son.
That's what I was kind of alluding to. You guys kind of both had the same name.
Still waiting on the blood work for that, but I was pretty awestruck with, okay, well, this guy's been WWF material, you know, working with Mr. Fuji, this guy's watched on TV. It's like, okay, well, what can I learn from this guy? And then we did a Father's Day show, and we did a brief gimmick where all Paul Diamond's characters came to the ring.
This is your life.
This is your life kind of deal. And then it's like, you
So
know,
like Kato and like Max Moon and
Yeah.
Max Mooney. And then Ernie Todd comes up with I got a surprise for you. 18 years ago, you left something behind. And I came out with 5 different signs. I am your daddy. And that was like, so.
that's something that fears to be a reality in my life anytime now. So
Going for the big hug and meet a kendo stick.
did you get to work matches with Paul at all?
I got to work one tag match.
Yeah.
And it was pretty much, I bought my ass off for him, and then it was like, hey, tag, and went home.
What was the locker room environment like then? Because you had like the Voice Clique with like Dalton and those guys, and you had Spider who was legitimately murdering people in the ring at that time. Like it was like a lot of guys that were like just jacked up, grizzled guys who like to drink beer and bleed. And what was the locker room environment like? You know, having to deal with all those different characters and personalities.
Well, it definitely was a circus. I just tried to stay by myself.
As crazy as those guys were, like, sorry to interject here, I think it was a lot, like, it was crazy, but it was a lot more laid back at the same time. You know what I mean? Because you knew what you were getting. These guys are just gonna fucking be these guys, you know?
Right.
And that was it. Yeah. And I don't think anyone had heat with each other within the company. Like, there was no, like, yeah, there was kind of those groups of guys, but
Yeah.
to my recollection, nobody was like, I don't like this guy that's sitting across from me in the locker room. Or
It wasn't
we'll
stay
only-
away from this guy.
Yeah, or we'll only work with the guys within our own clique. Like, we'd all go for a beer after. Like, nobody, like, yeah, those guys were those guys.
Did Ernie join the crew and go for beers?
No, they faked him.
Did you ever have any like run-ins or disagreements with him?
No, I didn't.
You always.
I think he yelled at me once, but that was because, you know, I was young and stupid.
I remember you used to always like to tell a story about how you're like the only guy that ever came up to him and was like, "Hey, I got some family in the crowd. Can I go over tonight?" He always used you as an example for that.
That'll haunt me for the rest of my life. Try and get the overspot.
You told that story for years.
Yeah.
So eventually you decided to depart from the CWF and you kind of started back with River City when Wayne started rolling again in the early 2000s.
Yes.
What sparked the change?
Again, just looking for something different, and
Did Ernie threaten to sue you for leaving?
No, actually,
No?
I heard about that. But no, it was mutual, and it was pretty good. Working with Wayne again this time. Now Wayne's by himself, and didn't have people to keep him in line, so to speak.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like the runaway train going this way, the tracks are over here. But I do appreciate what I got from there, experience-wise and opportunity-wise. I was one of his top guys in that era, so that was pretty good.
Yeah, you kind of came over to River City and you quickly were elevated to being a top guy. Was it just a different environment for yourself to kind of be put into a top position now?
It was definitely a new feeling, and
you got that over spot you were looking for.
yeah, no kidding. But just I felt privileged in a way, because now these younger guys coming in, I can show them what I learned, even though I'm learning it as I go. So it's like, okay, well, this is what I know now.
Yeah, I was actually talking to Travis about that today. When we're talking about you being on the podcast. At that time, like, that's when I was breaking in 2002, 2003, like, as a wrestler, and there was like a lot of guys that just kind of had a chip on their shoulder that, you know, like, been wrestling a couple years, and, they felt they were better than they were. But to me personally, you were always awesome, and I always put you over to anybody that asked for that reason. Like, nobody took me aside the way you did, and you'd work with me before the shows and help me out when you really had no reason to. You had you had no obligation to, but you were always very good to take guys like myself and other guys before the show and just show us little spots, because we weren't in a proper training structure. So we were just getting whatever training we could in before the shows, and you were always very influential in gathering guys together. And hey, do you want to learn how to do a crucifix sunset today? And I remember spiking myself on the head doing that with you at Norquay, and you're just really cool doing that. And I remember, like, you were champion. Like, I was only 3-4 months like into my wrestling career, like 16 years old, and you would go and work matches with me on these shows when I didn't belong in the ring, period. Never mind working with the champion of the company at the time, but you were always like very giving and willing to help, where a lot of guys didn't. So that's something I always I'm thankful for, and gratitude. I have a lot of gratitude for, because a lot of guys didn't do that for me. So, thank you, sir. I do appreciate that. And you were the top guy there for a long period of time, and then you started to make the move to, I think, Ringmasters. So why did you go from being the big fish in River City to jumping over somewhere else? Were you not satisfied with what you were doing, or just looking for something new again?
Something new, and I do believe, after being a two-time heavyweight champion there, and Wayne was looking in the direction of putting the new guys in better slots. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to step aside and let the new guys come up. And I remember, saying to myself, it's like, okay, well, you know what, I'm still new to the business, and I know where I was.
Yep.
So it's like, okay, well, guys are like, well, I'll just eat this guy up. And it's like, well, no, because how's he going to learn that way, right? I mean, you're going to keep him down, feet level. And it's like, well, how's he supposed to learn, right? So it's like, okay, well, you know what, I've accomplished everything that I can here, and move on to Ringmasters.
Ringmasters kind of like started up in a weird way, that a lot of their crew was working for River City, and then they just kind of pulled everybody and did like this big revealing that they were starting, and they had this grand vision. They were bringing wrestling back to being old school, and they were going to take over the world, and it was
Not so much NWO, but NWO style.
Yeah, it was kind of like we had this grand vision, because we got this nice ring, we got these nice belts, so they immediately kind of entered the fray with an attitude that they were going to be better than everybody, and what they had planned was going to take over Canadian wrestling. What are some of your memories of kind of being pitched the whole concept of Ringmasters, and did it live up to the potential you thought it could, or would you have done things differently?
I think Ringmasters could have went longer than it did. It was definitely a welcoming environment. A lot of people did get opportunities, even though they shouldn't have. And okay, well, you're not ready. It was like the next step.
Mm-hmm.
Try not to bury anybody, just kind of I am. But they go, okay, well, you know what? This is the next level, and it's like going from the minors to the NHL. You know, and I felt that Ringmasters was next step for anybody coming up.
So where did like the train fall off the tracks for them? Because they had this big presentation, they had this big concept, they had some money, but it never really got off the ground. It was like, we're going to do this, and then 3 months into running, they're running shows at Chalmers for $2, and there's 8 people in the crowd, and where did things fall off the tracks?
I wish I knew more into, but definitely politics was the heel on that one.
Yeah, so I always thought it was kind of bizarre. Cause like I hate the concept that people say like old school, and that's something they were trying to do. Like we're old school, which was really a definition for we got a bunch of like older guys that don't like to do much.
Yeah,
and that's not old school. Like you watch wrestling from the 70s and 80s, guys were going at a good pace and they worked really hard. But it was more so like, these other guys and these other companies are doing some new innovative stuff. We're gonna be the guys that aren't going to move on and try to change the wheel any, and as a result you had a lot of guys that just weren't very capable, that would work a very slow match, they'd sit on the headlock or they'd bail to the floor for 10 minutes before they locked up, and that can be done if you're talented enough to capture people's attention and bring them on a ride while doing it. But I think it was kind of like this out, like, we got these guys that can't do that stuff, so we're going to brand them this way, and this is why they're different. I think that was kind of what hurt them, is they didn't try to grow and be like, okay, well, we'll take some of these guys and we'll make something good. It's like, we're going to stick to this one style, and it wasn't a very good one. Just the overall general product, not anyone in particular.
Try not to go with my personal feel there was the fact that you had guys who can give more to the other.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, like I remember like being young and wanting to try to get on as many shows as I can. It's like, you guys aren't really a good fit here. I was like, what do you mean we're not going to fit? It's a good match is a good match. Like, it doesn't matter like what style it is, as long as it's intriguing to people. There's Dick Blood, or at the time I guess Baron Von Meter, claims that he quit the business because he had to drop a championship to you in Ringmasters Entertainment. Was there heat between the two of you?
Not to my knowledge.
No. So he was so mad, like, I don't know if it was you personally or just the fact he had to lose it. Maybe Kev can give some perspective. That he got up and quit the business. He's like, and he didn't come back for like 8 years.
Yeah.
He was under the impression going into that show that he was dropping the strap to Moses Luke, and then so I guess he had this match planned out with them and everything, and then they changed the match.
Yeah,
when he
that was
left
the finish that I heard too.
Yeah, and then
then
they basically changed the match
on the fly.
On the fly, like as the show was going on. I think like pretty quickly, and he didn't care for that, and like it's not what they changed it to, it's the fact that they changed it.
So it was nothing. There's no like great between the two of you. It was just kind of
it's just the fact that they kind of flipped things on him when they already had things sorted out. And okay, here's how we're gonna do this.
Is this the infamous match where he bled all over their ring?
Yes.
And what brought that to happen? Because they had like a no bleeding policy, right?
Yeah, it's a brand new fucking ring. Like, you know what, Corey, I'd have to fill you in because this was like the first show in Ringmasters that I was unable to make for whatever reason, and I wasn't on message boards or nothing like that, so I didn't even know any of this fucking shit happened until like another show or two. Dick Blood wasn't there, and it's kind of like, hey, where's Mark been? They're like, what? You there? I was like, no, fuck, what?
Yeah, because that was a three-way with
Mo.
With Mo and Mark and myself, and it was supposed to be two of them in the finish, and then all of a sudden it got flipped around, and then it was like, okay. I think I was the most surprised out of all three of them.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, he apparently he bled a lot on that fucking canvas.
Not as much as the start of River City, Rumble. He took the trash can in the head.
Oh yeah.
That's the first time I saw Mark.
Yeah, that big.
So you kind of wrapped up, I guess, what would be your local career in Steeltown Pro Wrestling.
Yes.
You worked with them for quite a bit. What made you decide to finally say, you know what, this is it?
It was a couple of factors. More the fact that body was taking a toll and shutting down on me. And it was like, okay, well, this was time, you know, for the in-ring ability of now. I think that only lasted like a year.
I did commentary on your Steel Town retirement match, if I recall. And I was like, this isn't going to be a retirement match.
Were you knees at the time?
Yeah, I was shit-faced, yeah. I was like, he's going to be back. Come on. Nobody retires.
Well,
So how many times have you retired now? We were joking about it, but how many times have you retired, and are you officially retired as of right now?
I am officially retired, and I had 2 other times that, but I just couldn't let go.
You couldn't let go.
No.
So
I
when's the
felt that
return
there
then?
was more often. There's no return this time.
Point of no return.
Point of no return. So they say hindsight's 20/20. Now that it's 16 years later, we've talked about this wild journey you've taken working for different promotions and with different guys. If there's anything you could change to kind of take your career in the direction you initially wanted to when you started, what changes would you have made?
I think I'd rather be, should have been a little more aggressive with, not so much as character, but personal-wise with, because I do believe that I still have a lot more to offer. And I think that I could have went differently. There was definitely more doors that near the end of my career I went through that were still there, but I was naive to see them.
Yeah.
You know.
When talking Cory Diamond to different people in the business, because I do have a respect for you, and talking about how you were somebody that was touted as somebody that had a lot of potential very early on in his career, that could have done things. When you were with that initial TRCW crew, like it had guys like Kenny Omega, Mentalo, Raw Skills, all these guys that went on to do a lot of really good things in the business. Ryan Wood. Do you think if you would have maybe stuck with that crew instead of going to like the rough and tough CWF crew and kind of stuck with the guys that were like dedicated to getting ahead, wrestling, like in the business in general, and kind of working a style that was more modern to advance, do you think things could have been a little bit different if you would have?
Oh, it definitely took me on a different path for sure.
Yeah.
And yes, seeing the new guys with their aerial and stuff like that, and I can't do half of the things they were doing, is definitely intimidating. And so, but they're doing what they're doing, and hats off to them, right?
Yeah. We like to ask 2 questions to kind of close up the podcast for fun. What's the worst match you've ever had? If you had to pinpoint one that you never want to see the light of day, what was it?
Probably my first one with Lou Dooley.
With Lou Dooley? Yeah. I kind of want to see that. Like, that'd be something I'd want to watch.
I don't think there was much video footage in those days.
No. But what, surprisingly, that I put together a video, and that's my first match on there.
Is it?
Oh, is it?
Is it on a Cory Diamond DVD?
Yes.
I will have to pick one of these up. I will watch that. I love that kind of stuff. And sometimes this question kind of coincides with the last one, but sometimes it's different. Who's the shittiest guy you've ever been in the ring with that if you came back under no circumstance would you ever want to wrestle him again?
Throw me under the bus on that one. I'd have to say softball is Mark Merrick. Like,
Weren't you guys like tag partners?
we were tag partners, just a lot of closed doors, shit that I'd rather didn't have to happen. You know,
Oh, like on a
kinda-
personal level.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's like I like him as a person, but as a wrestler and promoter, he's a piece of shit.
Was there a falling out between the two of you? Because you guys were close, were you not? Like, you guys were buddies.
Yeah, and
Now you're like booking for him at one point or helping book.
I was helping book, and then he'd steal my ideas. It's like, well, okay, well, you know what? This is a great idea, and then I'm gonna give it to these guys that had no business in that. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Actually, I remember you were asking Uncle you some guys, and I'm like, Cory, I love you, but I just don't want to associate with him for that kind of reason, because he'll start off with a smile on his face and hey, I just want to work together, but it seems more and more you talk to people, they always end up with the knife in the back. So you just avoid that altogether, you avoid all those problems.
Yes.
So, well, if now as we wrap up the program, is there any final words you'd like to say to the Cory Diamond fan base out there that may never get an opportunity to see you again?
Well, it was definitely a fun ride, and if anyone wants to get into this business, be smart about it and learn with open ears.
And if anybody wants to get in touch with you to discuss your career or just inquire about Cory Diamond, is there a social media handle they can get at you?
Off the grid.
Yeah, pretty much.
If they want to buy that match with you and Carver Gleason,
They'd have to bug me on Facebook as Chris Hagman.
there you go.
So
Haggle him on Facebook. Haggling with Chris Hagman. Well, thank you very much for joining the program, and that's our last one of 2015, and we'll be back next week and we'll talk some more professional wrestling.
sounds good.
Right on.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, man. I appreciate it.